there a Jeffrey Epstein right now that we don't know about?
There's a million.
A million of them. That's not a tabloid headline. That's Joe Rogan saying the man everyone is still arguing about isn't the real story. The story is everyone above him, everyone after him, and the names buried inside millions of pages that still haven't fully been revealed.
Oh, that couldn't be true. And then you realize that it is true.
Because here's what cable news doesn't really break down. Some of the names that come up in discussions belong to people with massive influence, global reputations, and carefully built public images. That doesn't prove anything on its own, but it keeps the questions alive.
One problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be pedophilia.
Nobody talks about pedophilia.
It's the big secret.
And it's widespread?
Years ago, Corey Feldman said things on live television that people ignored. The host moved on. The story moved on. But later, voices like Mel Gibson started saying similar things. At the time, they were dismissed. Now, people are looking back at what they said differently.
Is there a Jeffrey Epstein right now that we don't know about?
There's a million of them.
For years, the conversation around Jeffrey Epstein followed the same pattern. A file drops, a name trends, media talks about it briefly, and then everything fades away like it never happened.
I bet it was a real good honeypot where there's a lot of sophisticated intellectual discourse. You got a lot of brilliant people there. You've got great music, you know, you got like famous people are hanging around too.
Yeah.
It's like, it seems really cool. And then if there's blackmail, the blackmail is like snuck into all this.
Yeah.
Snuck in, come to the room with the cameras. And next thing you know, you're doing cool.
That cycle only changed when people started digging deeper, actually reading documents, breaking them down, and looking beyond one individual to understand the bigger picture.
Here, I was in my mid-20s.
Right.
The first time I really came over. You know, I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand.
Right.
And nobody was really bothering to explain it to me.
Because this isn't always obvious. It's not direct. It's about proximity, environments, and how people can get pulled into situations without realizing the full picture at first.
And and I formed a bunch of opinions about the town and about the people in it that were like, surely that couldn't be, because the whole place can't be like, you know, Weird Town, you know, where the stranger wanders in and all the people are in the bar and they all shut up when he looks at them and they tell you don't go into the house.
And over time, major cases started coming out. Things that were once dismissed as rumors became documented investigations. And suddenly, those early warnings didn't seem so crazy anymore.
And then you go away and you think, no, I was wrong. I mean, that's insane thinking. I'm paranoid. I imagined that.
That's the pattern. Speak early, get dismissed. Speak later, get taken seriously. And the cost of speaking early is usually your reputation.
And then you find out later on the track that you are exactly on track with a lot of this stuff. Not specifically on track, but that you could, that some of your worst nightmares were real at the time. And you think, it does rip your life to pieces.
That's exactly what happened with voices like Corey Feldman. What people once laughed off started being revisited, not as proof, but as something worth paying attention to.
I can tell you that the number one problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be pedophilia. That's the biggest problem for children in this industry.
The casting couch even applies to children.
Oh, yeah. Not in the same way. It's all done under the radar.
Nobody talks about pedophilia.
It's the big secret.
And this is where the conversation shifts. It's no longer about one person, it's about systems. About how power works, who controls narratives, and what gets exposed versus what disappears.
As much as I've been behind the wizard's curtain in 30 plus years in coming to this town, there are powerful forces at play that I don't understand, but I know they.
Which leads to the bigger question. How much of what we see publicly actually reflects reality? Especially in an industry built on image and perception.
There's one person to blame in the death of Corey Haim, and that person happens to be a Hollywood mogul. And that person needs to be exposed, but unfortunately, I can't be the one to do it. But the person that knows who did it and knows who he is watching right now, I guarantee you.
Take Leonardo DiCaprio as an example. His name has appeared in discussions connected to documents, but to be clear, there are no charges and no confirmed wrongdoing tied to him. Still, in today's climate, even indirect mentions get analyzed.
And there are people in this industry who have gotten away with it for so long that they feel they're above the law. And that's got to change. That's got to stop.
People also look at long-standing public patterns, things that have been discussed online for years. Not as accusations, but as part of a larger conversation about perception and behavior.
How many senators just voted against releasing this, man? It's just, it's like, there's two votes that are happening. The UFO disclosure thing, they keep voting against that.
Yeah.
And the Epstein list, they keep voting against that.
There's also curiosity around projects like his eco-resort plans, which have faced delays over time due to environmental and approval issues. On their own, those delays aren't unusual, but in today's environment, everything gets questioned.
What? And also, politically, it can't serve you to talk about a bad list. The list of people who said, let's protect people who like have done horrific shit to kids. You want to be on that list, but whatever's on that list must be so destabilized.
And that's what this really is, questions, not conclusions. Questions about influence, transparency, and whether the systems people talk about have actually changed. Because until those answers are clear, this conversation isn't going anywhere.